All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Live Bold and Boss Up. It's our second to last episode before the end of this season. And we want to talk about being overemployed.
Right.
This has come up so much since the pandemic and having employees being 100% remote.
Right.
And
What does that mean?
right.
Overemployed.
So apparently overemployed in the business area is really working 2 full-time jobs at the same exact time. Most of them are traditionally like the 9 to 5 roles that you can work, but they're doing the same like title job, like the same type of job, but just for 2 different companies. And they're not communicating that they're doing that either.
So it's interesting that you said that, because I was thinking that it was not your traditional 9 to 5, that it was like kind of like jobs that you can do like on your own type of schedule. That's how they can basically do it. Because then you have one that you can do basically in the morning, one that you can do in the evening, or do simultaneously like an online like programmer or designer or something like that, where you're pretty much just doing on your own time.
Right. And I think people were doing that before, like where it was like, okay, this is your day job and then this is something fun that you do, but you're still getting paid for it. But now people, because they're working 100% remote, they're taking on like 2 HR manager jobs at 2 different companies. Really? A lot of them were, I know, a lot of them were like, the most common is like tech jobs.
Right.
That I saw.
That's what I was thinking of, is the tech jobs would be easy to do that with,
right.
Which is, it's not a good thing.
Right.
Right. Like, do people, what's the pros and cons of doing that? Do employers like that or no? Or do they mind it?
It sounds like, because I brought this up at a couple of the events that I was at and asked some business owners or some executives their thoughts on this. And they were not happy with it. A lot of companies only want you working just for them. And really, if you put your, if you wear the shoes of the employee, that's not really fair, because you're getting a base salary and that's all that you can make. You can't make more. But they don't want their proprietary information to be shared, which makes sense too. So I think a lot of the feedback was, hey, why don't you just share it with us? Be transparent.
Right.
And then in some cases, you might actually be able to do it as long as you're transparent and share.
Yeah, I would make sure both companies are okay with it, because some, it may be a conflict of interest, right, or they only want you focusing on that one particular job and company. I don't know how I would feel about it.
I know.
If it was the same industry or same job.
Right.
You know, if it's something completely different, that's one thing, but same job is like, you know.
Right. Well, especially like if you look at being a recruiter. It's like,
no, you can't go recruit for another
you
company.
really wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus you're splitting your time. I feel like I would want your time devoted to next path, and that would be it.
Right. Right.
Maybe I'm stingy.
But so it was funny because one of these executives that I was talking to, they found out that one of their employees, who was a tech employee, was working two jobs at the same time, both 9 to 5, same type of title. And they only realized it because that employee had a lot of, I'll just say, company B information on company A's laptop. And I was like, wow, that is not a smart move.
Right.
You get 2 separate laptops. You absolutely should use them for each company. So apparently something happened where he must have, or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, must have used company A laptop for company A and B. And that's how they got caught. Company A called company B and said, hey, we have this employee. They had a lot of information about your company on our laptop. And they were like, no, 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 that's our employee.
Yeah. No.
And now that person doesn't work for either company.
I would just think that's never a good thing.
Right. I mean, how can you know, fully work either role?
Mm-hmm.
But there was some research on not an IT person, but a person that was doing a different role in HR. And that person was able to succeed and move forward. But I haven't, none of the research really shows anybody that's done this for more than a year because obviously
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
new
It's not
thing.
sustainable
Right.
either. I
I don't
feel
think it's
like.
sustainable either.
Right.
Yeah. There's got to be like at some point a big project, right? For either company where you're working nights and weekends or whatever to finish it. But I guess so we haven't really said it out loud, but we've been dancing around it. Like, is it ethical? Is this like a is it do we label it good or bad? Or is it just like a hustler mentality? Would it like,
I think it all depends on the company that you're working for, depends on what job it is. If there's a conflict of interest, there's a lot of variables that come into play.
mm-hmm,
So it's not like good or bad. It all depends on the situation.
right, right. So if someone is thinking about working two jobs at the same time, I think one, being transparent with each employer, what you're doing, why you want to continue it,
Also,
right?
if you're W-2 or 1099, I feel like that would come into play too. If you're a full-time employee of the company or if you're just a contractor.
Right. Right. Well, if you're a contractor too, I feel like just by nature, that they're working other contracts.
Yeah, I feel like
It's a little bit more
that
transparent.
happens more often. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would still be transparent about it,
Right.
but it is more prevalent as a contractor in that, whole world.
Right. So if you're an employer and you want to find out like, hey, how can what if what if I'm suspecting one of my employees is, overemployed working two jobs? How do I find out? Um, One of the main questions is, well, maybe you can find out through background checks. However, you won't see this in background checks unless they put it on their employment application. But you could do a credit check, which I think would then show.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I would think it would come up
mm-hmm,
somehow. Yeah.
right.
So you could do that. Also, you can ask them and then, see if they're being truthful or not. And if they're not, then there's one issue there.
Right.
That's a whole nother issue.
And that is.
Um, and if they are being truthful, then have that conversation with them. Is it an issue or not? Or
Mm-hmm.
find out the situation.
I couldn't imagine living like that, like working
Double life.
two double life, working two jobs with two different companies because social media is really big right now, and obviously you're doing things within your community, whether it's like school or your kids' school or just other professional network or award events or something like that. Someone is going to know, right? Someone to the whatever
Right.
degree. And then if you're on social media like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, those people are going to, the people from company A and B are going to friend you or
Mhm.
link with you.
Right.
And once you post whatever, they're going to notice.
Right. It would be difficult to put that on your LinkedIn or your
Absolutely.
resume that you're currently at these two companies. It'd be like, like, please explain this.
Yeah.
Again, unless it was like a part-time role and then a full-time role or two completely different things and a side hustle or something you do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
Yeah. I would love to hear from any of the listeners if they are, what we're calling it like overemployed. If you're working two of the same jobs, I'd love to hear how you do it. If you are getting burnt out.
Or I would like to hear the employer side as well. Have you
Mm-hmm.
had any situations? Would you be okay with it or not? And have you run into this with any of your employees? And what have you done?
Right.
I'd
Right.
love to hear it.
I'm sure during this time of the year, like holiday season, how do you work that? What if your company parties are on the same night or, people are posting pictures of you for the
Yeah.
company holiday party? Like,
And I do think most of these would be remote roles. So maybe,
Oh, yeah, that's true. I did say that in the beginning. So you probably wouldn't be getting together with them.
right. So,
But
but still, there's a little conflict there.
mm-hmm.
I don't recommend it.
Mm-mm.
I would say check with your employer, be transparent, and you have to have a balance. You can't overdo it. That's not sustainable long term.
Absolutely. Like if you need to do two different things, like pick a hobby, do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or if you like, say you're, um, or do contracting is what I was gonna say. Like if you like doing multiple things all at once or like the variety, be a 1099 contractor and do different things.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, hopefully this helps. If you've been thinking about it, if you are overemployed, if you're an employer, please let us know. I want to hear because we talk to people all the time, and I don't think it's a good idea, but I want to see if it works for people
Right.
and just kind of what the situation is and how you make that work.
I know. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Until
Mhm.
next time, live
Live
bold and
bold and
boss
boss
up.
up.